Cowgirl Astrologer, and I'm really excited tonight to come out and talk about what I consider some astrological hot topics. And I've got a couple friends here tonight, some of my astro buddies, and people that also, you know, are working out in their lives these astrological things. We know that we've been in the middle of some heavy transits, and so I don't know, I think that there's some really interesting things going on, and tonight we are going to be talking about them. So I would first of all like to introduce Kajaya. Kajaya, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello everyone, I'm Kajaya, I'm a Leo, and this is my first Google Hangout ever. I'm excited to do it. I've been meaning to get on with Chrystal for a while now, but this is my first one. I'm glad to be here. Interesting topic, and I'm really excited for it. So there you go.
Very cool, very cool.
Cool.
And yes, and we have another, I consider you a good friend because we've just connected on Facebook, and this is 10th of State, or 10. Would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about
Hi. Hello. Yes, we've met up on Facebook recently. I'm really into astrology, and I have done some counselling and psychotherapy in the past, but I'm not practicing now. And I am totally into the astrology of what's been happening with Pluto going into Capricorn since 2008. I think things have really taken off since then, and obviously the Uranus-Pluto square. And I'm hooking up with an awful lot of people and some fantastic professional astrologers now, which is just wonderful. It's a wonderful world to be moving in. And I feel that hangouts like this, obviously, and the work that we're doing on Facebook and the work that we're doing out there with other people is really galvanizing what's happening up there, and making people aware that there are more things to the world than just our lives. You know, it's much bigger, much bigger.
Yes, yes. Well, I think this is going to be a great conversation tonight, because that's exactly what I'm seeing. You know, there's common themes as you look at life, especially through astrology, and you start to follow the different things that are going on. I get a lot of messages, you know, and I take them very seriously, because when I start seeing a theme or a commonality, I start asking myself, you know, is there something we can learn from this? Is there something we can do? And one of the hot topics that keeps coming to me right now is about women who are being scammed on these dating sites. And I know this sounds like, okay, this is The View, Dr. Phil, but everybody's talking about it. And I can actually look in, going under a little deeper, and I see this being a very strong theme of Saturn and Scorpio, bringing this to the surface. And I think when we look at Saturn and Scorpio, one of the things that we all have to look at, this transit that's been going on since October of 2012, we're at the final stages of it. But even though we're at the final stages of it, it's still going to be coming up to the surface for many years to come. It's having us look at our intimate relationships. It's having us look at the things we truly desire. We no longer are able to just run around and be superficial.
Right.
We're looking deep within us. What are you seeing, Ten, in your conversations that you're having out there?
Oh yeah, the depth is definitely there. With the Scorpio issue and Saturn, with that Mars that went in, my goodness, what a lot of revenge went on out there. It was startling. So I'm glad to see that's gone, or going out. You know, it's going out of phase now. Saturn certainly has put restrictions on. It's definitely putting the brakes on lots of, well, whichever area your Scorpio is falling into in your chart. On a global scale, I think that's quite a good thing. I think society has become too sexualized, and of course Scorpio is ruled by Pluto, and Scorpio is the sexual sign, And I think that to put the brakes on that and have people come up and say, do you know what, we're actually fed up with being sold through sex now, I think that's a good thing. I think that's affecting the modelling side as well. I think people are waking up to the fact that models aren't real. Photoshop's not real.
Yes. What do you think, Kajaya, just kind of based on what we talked about earlier, and we'll go into a little more depth about it, but...
About this whole Saturn and Scorpio transit?
Mm-hmm.
Well, for me, because it's been transiting my ascendant, I have a Scorpio rising. So these years have been... I've learned so much. I've learned so much, and I think what people don't realize about Scorpio is that it sort of stays in the past. You know, it's hooked to the past, and with this transit of Saturn in Scorpio, it brings about a lot of issues that you may have had in your past that you haven't dealt with. And this Saturn in Scorpio transit had, you know, it made you face whatever you tried to bury or tried to ignore or thought you'd gotten over. It, you know, it brought it to the surface. It brought it to the surface.
Yeah, that is definitely for sure. No stone has been unturned. That is for sure. So, well, one of the things that I wanted to focus in on a little bit, like I said from the beginning, is I've been getting a lot of messages from women that have had these online relationships because we are in the age of the internet, and so much of our connections are becoming through these soul connections. And how we can, you know, kind of get led down really dark, deep, dark holes, really. We do have to be careful. This has been something that's been coming out a lot. And I believe it's because, and again, I'm using the topic of women, but this can be men as well. But women often, because of this scorpionic energy, you see that deep, deep, deep need for intimacy. And what's been happening is there's been men overseas. I'm going to bring it up as a topic. They come in, they go on dating sites, they, you know, they talk about that they have this money and these inheritance, or they work for the oil refinery, which I think is a little odd because those are very scorpionic themes. And they start talking to these women, they start isolating these women, and they start having a very, very deep, intimate relationship with them. They know all the key words. And what I've seen in the messages that I've got, or I've received, is the women that are really struggling with this or falling prey to this have a lot of Scorpio in their chart. Okay, so this is the beginning of astrological you know, study that I think we can look at. And I think that what I want to come away with tonight is, for women who have become really vulnerable, this is one topic, but we've all become very vulnerable. How can we be balanced? How can we find that solid connection in who we are once we start realizing that we need intimacy? Thank you, Saturn and Scorpio. So that's kind of my discussion tonight is, you know, what is going on with people. I think a lot of people are confused because they're having all of these experiences that Saturn is bringing up, that what we need as true humans, and yet we have Neptune and Pisces retrograde right now. There's a lot of deception in the air. How can we talk about this? And what do we need to do to stay balanced and get the most out of this energy and not fall victim or prey to the dark side of this energy?
Well, I think with Saturn being in Scorpio and that being such a rough period people are going through, and then you have Neptune and Pisces, people are looking to be rescued. You know, they've been going through so much crap. They want to be rescued, you know. So that's that Neptune and Pisces coming in, wanting to have this Prince Charming just come and swoop them off their feet because of all the difficult situations that they've been going through. You know, people are tired. I'm tired. It's been transiting my ascendant. You know, I would love for someone to come and rescue me, but I can't. So, and I can understand why these women could be so vulnerable and be deceived so easily because you just want a break. And Saturn doesn't give breaks, nor does Scorpio give breaks. So I can see how that, can play out with Neptune and Pisces being the illusion, being deceptive, being deceived, So.
Well, and I think just to add to that, for so many people that maybe, were focused on their career, maybe they put love aside, maybe they put those intimate needs aside. Well, guess what? Those needs and those feelings are coming up for all of us, and a lot of us aren't prepared to deal with such emotional feelings and desires and how to do that in a healthy way.
Right.
Tim, what do you think about that?
Definitely. I think there's definitely a Neptune connection here, and it could be the aspects that are created at the time in that person's chart, because obviously Neptune deals with the victim and savior side of it too. I think people are looking for something more deeper, and that's possibly where the Scorpio thing comes in, on a deeper level of emotions. The communication side on this, you and I have had this discussion, and I've discussed it with several other people that are into astrology and astrologers recently. I have Uranus presently in my 3rd house, and if you remember, I sent you a post saying I've got Skype up and running again, but you're probably going to say to me, don't go now because Mercury's retrograde. I think because words that are written down are 2-dimensional, so it makes us more gullible. Instantly, it makes us more gullible because what you're reading is flat, and people, they don't have to be a wordsmith, but they can manipulate through the written word much more easily than as we are now on Skype. You can hear, you can see the expression. So I think that comes into the internet side with Uranus again. So I think we've got several issues here. I think you're dealing with people on an emotional level that we've all been through such a hard time recently as well. The whole world has gone through a hard time. I think everybody's looking for something a bit deeper. Scorpio's making us yearn for that. Pluto wants deep. It wants, something much more than just intimate. It wants like a proper union of two people. And then with the communication side, because people are a bit more vulnerable because it's 2D and they're more suggestive. I think that's an issue as well. Perhaps Saturn in this mix is what's bringing this up now. We've got Saturn moving out in a couple of months' time.
Yes.
Perhaps that's why you're tapping into this now, and this is now taking a bit more of a highlight in the news and around us. It wants it to wrap it up before it comes out of Scorpio. It wants some solutions to this. I think communication and education would be the solution to this. Obviously, we can't reach every person on the planet instantly, but if we spread the word and educate people, like the bullying campaigns are, the internet bullying campaigns, they're doing really, really good. They're getting people up and running with being able to block people, being able to look for the danger signs. Yeah, it's pretty much all I can add on that at the moment.
It's interesting because I, was able to get fairly close to a situation, seeing this play out, and actually see some of the messages that were coming through the deceptive form, and I was so amazed at how powerful these words were, like you were talking about, to these women, saying everything, but very, very specific. You and I together have finally met our soul. We finally connected. We're going to live our whole life together. That long security. Bringing our finances together. Of course, soon they're asking for your bank account.
Yeah.
But and it was interesting to me because those would normally be red flags. But because of the way that they're skilled, that these deceiving scammers are, catfish, whatever you want to call them. I mean, I'm putting out a little warning. I'm putting out this warning right now to women because of the fact we are in a time where our hearts are wide open, and yet there's a lot of delusion, and there's certain people that can be more prone to this because of where their heart is. And so it's looking at, they're, now that they've gone through it and they're on the other side realizing it's a lie, realizing they've been deceived, many of them having their bank accounts drained because they would do anything just for somebody to tell them that they are special, to make them feel good again.
Yeah.
And I realize this is a lifelong theme that plays out over time, but very specifically right now, people are very vulnerable and very open. And, my kind of red flag warning sign tonight is about, what can we do? What are you doing, Kajaya? And I don't know, are we getting you live, Tanya? Are you on? I saw that your picture came up. Are we hearing your audio? We've got Tanya here, too. I'm going to fly out there and figure out what's going on with your computer. Kajaya, what do you think? I mean, you've got to tap in on this energy. What can people do when they're dealing?
They have to deal with their issues.
How do they do that?
Oh, that's strong.
That's pretty
Getting rid of the distractions. And, we all try to run away from those voices in our heads. Those questions we keep asking ourselves. You have to answer them. You can't, sort of turn off the noises and the voices in your head. You have to really face your sugar honey iced tea. You have to face it. You have to confront old issues in the past, and you have to confront yourself. We spend so much time trying to help others and deal with other people's issues and other people's problems. We have to face our own problems. We have to fill ourselves, because if you're longing for a relationship that's across the seas, if someone can come in and get on the internet and deceive you, obviously you're empty on the inside.
Yeah. And that's kind of what I'm trying to get to here tonight is, what tools, what can we offer? I mean, I know it's a loaded question, and it's something we're all working on.
Right.
But as Saturn moves into Sagittarius, we're getting ready for this shift. And if we don't look at these issues, and I'm talking to all my American sisters out there that, I want to talk about these things so that we can be whole, so that we're not susceptible and vulnerable to not listening to our intuition. And I think our intuition has for so long been snuffed out.
Right.
And Saturn, Scorpio, Neptune, and Pisces, I mean, we have the ability to tap into our intuition like never before. Ten, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I totally agree. I did a write-up about that today, of course. There's much stronger energies going around that are allowing us to be more intuitive. I think, obviously we're dealing with some vulnerability here as well, but to be honest with you, if a chap turned around to me after just a few weeks or a month and said, you're my soulmate and you're my world and let's do this and do that, and started making plans for the rest of our lives, I'd be running out the door, love. Like, whoa, can we just get to know each other a bit more first? Because we all know that things go in stages. I think when we're in our teens, those are such important years for when you're forming relationships, and you kind of learn the ropes, don't you? When you're a teenager, you learn the steps to relationships and how things work. So perhaps we're looking at certain groups of people that maybe haven't had that experience when they were in their teens. Maybe they're lacking some of the red flags that the rest of us would see. Right. So sort of a life experience thing too. And I think also, you said it earlier that, we're all pretty tired of this now. So,
please, perhaps, Sagittarius, come.
Yes, and it will. I think, but perhaps that exhaustion from dealing with such big, enormous life things that we've had to go through. We just want some light. We want, like you said earlier, we want we want to feel loved. We want to feel special. So again, is that a vulnerability, or are we looking at it from let's try and prevent and save the people that this is happening to? Or are we looking at it from, let's prevent those people from being sharks in the first place? You know, what kind of upbringing has someone had that they're manipulating another human being for financial gain through something as pure as love?
Yeah, and unfortunately, and for those of you who are interested a little bit more of these stories, I will put a couple of documentaries below on the comments or on the description. But these are literally young kids in their 20s that are sitting around together, and across the country, and a lot of them in very poor countries, but they've got a hold of the internet. But they literally have figured out that American women are like just open. They have been. These women are sending hundreds and thousands of dollars, wiping out their bank accounts just to hear that they are loved.
Right.
And I get it. It's like, okay, we all. Gosh, I mean, this has been an isolating time for a lot of people. Yeah. The last 2.5 years, people have had a lot of loss. People have lost their partners, their spouses. Saturn and Scorpio has that way of bringing in that life and death and regeneration. And I think for so many people, they get stuck. They get stuck in the death, in the depression, in the darkness. Right. And I guess I'm, bringing this to light because there is deception out there. As much as we all want to see the good, and believe me, I've got a lot of Pisces, so I love to see the good. But when I'm getting these messages and they're asking me, will I ever have love again? I'm so raw, I'm so hurt, I'm so lonely, and this has happened to me. I'm looking past what's actually happening. And where are we at? Where are we at coming out of Saturn and Scorpio? Are you stuck in the pain?
Right.
And that makes you open and susceptible. How can we help, take the steps together? And that's what these discussions are about. That
perhaps we're looking at something a lot wider and deeper here than just lack of personal experience or, on a personal level. Perhaps if we looked at this on a much larger plane, are we looking at a kind of naive vulnerability that is born from either a generational influence, or from a lack of, personally, just listening to what you just said then, that rang bells for me with a lot of people across generations, they seem to lack self-belief.
Right.
We seem to, you know what I mean, don't you? That lack of self-belief. We have a lack of that as a whole species now. I think we've obviously got a lack of integrity and a lack of respect and self-respect, which, when I look back at how people behaved when I was young, it is completely different to how they behave now. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that was based on respect and integrity, and not just respect for others, but respect for yourself. So perhaps we're looking at a bit of a pandemic here of people struggling to find self-respect and a form of self-integrity, but also integrity out there as well.
I think you're absolutely right, and Kajai, I'd like you to comment on this in a minute because of our generational differences, but I do think in the studies that I've been looking at, people have been, calling me with these questions. I've been looking at their charts. A lot of these women are born in, 1955 to 1960. I'm seeing right in there, 1959. I've only had a few case studies, so if this has happened to you, or anybody that you know, and you would like to send me a private message with some birth information that I can look at, because that's what I'm looking for, is a generational thread. But I think that generation of those of us born in the 60s, even in the 50s, you know, we were born with neighborhoods that you knew your neighbor.
Yeah.
Your neighbor.
Yeah.
And everybody, if there was somebody weird, everybody knew it, you know, everybody knew it. But because there's become such an isolation of actual relationships, and we don't know our neighbor more, most of us have come into this internet world and we're experiencing incredible relationships, but also this opens the door to the shadow side.
Right.
You're raised more with these kind of relationships being natural and normal.
Right. I'm from the you know, Saturn and Aquarius generation, you know, and even though Aquarius deals with a large group, it's also very detached. It's a detached sign, so it's easier to come on the internet and talk to people and communicate. Like, I've never met you in person, but you know, we speak every other day, you know, and I have a closer relationship with you on the internet than I do with my next door neighbor, who I don't even know.
Yeah.
Which, you know, in your generation is ridiculous. You know, I've never met you, but we speak every day, and I feel closer to you than I do than the man next door to me.
Yeah, we've had conversations, and of course we have the, you know, we all have the, you know, astrology as our common bond, but beyond that, you know, we've opened up to each other, and as we're living out this journey, how incredible is that? But on the shadow side of it, how much room does that open up for such deceptive situations? And I'm, you know, kind of wanting to protect all my American women out there and say, come on, you guys, you know, if you're, you know, we're not familiar with it. I had to learn a lot more about communicating on the internet than the younger generation like you. Jaya, you're, you know, you guys have, like you said, the lingo, you hop in and out.
Right.
But women of my generation and even a little older, they're getting lost down in this dark world, and there are predators out there. So, and Saturn and Scorpio, as much as I, you know, I'm talking about all the good things it's bringing out in us, it does bring that out. So,
another thing I think Saturn and Scorpio brings out, Scorpio deals with self-destruction. You know, it's the phoenix. It rises and it bursts. You know, it's born, you live, and then it dies. And I think that's a behavior that a lot of people have been having to face, is their own self-destructive nature. Especially with Saturn being in Scorpio, you know, looking at areas of your life where you sort of screw yourself, or, you know, you've not really noticed. You know, I'm sure maybe this isn't the first time some of those women have been deceived before, but it just was on a much grander scale. You know.
Yeah, it's very, you know, like I said, this is just one of many hot topics, but I thought it was a very good theme for what's going on. Yeah, it's very interesting, and as we're moving out of this transition, Saturn and Scorpio, we've got Mercury retrograde right now, which is why I'm pulling out some deep subjects, down deep, pulling them out, bringing them to light. You know, just as a real awareness, what do we want to be left with? It's coming out of this transit and moving into Saturn and Sagittarius. Ten, do you have any thoughts on that? We love my loaded questions.
Bang. Well, globally, I think. I mean, obviously, Saturn is the teacher, and it does put the brakes on, does restrict us, and thank goodness. Thank goodness that Saturn has been putting the brakes on in Scorpio, because Scorpio can be the most vindictive of, you know, of signs, you know, in that particular area, not Scorpio as a person, you know, as a sun sign. And also, you know, there's only so far down we can stand to go, and if we because Pluto keeps bringing us down to the depths all the time, it's like, how, you know, 2.5 years of all this revealing, you know, please, enough now. you know, over here in the UK, we've had such an enormous amount of celebrities that have been unearthed doing really bad things. You know, that's all been coming to the surface. So I think when he moves into Sagittarius, it's going to be interesting because from a global perspective, Sagittarius is like a bouncy puppy, and Saturn's going to be going no. Yeah, and that's really going to knock the stuffing out of the jovial side for, you know, a couple of years there. I don't know how it's going to manifest. I'm going to have to look into that. But with respect to where we are now, we've obviously got a couple of months where we've got to wrap this up. So I think more is going to be revealed and more is going to come out, and I think more people are going to get very frustrated that they've been stuck in the Saturn box, because it's very thorough. It makes us learn very thoroughly, and no stone is left unturned. With regards to this topic, then I'd like to see that more websites and more organisations come forward to help these people that are obviously being ripped off. You know, there's no two other ways about it. So if Saturn can do that for us in the next couple of months, where it gives us more campaigns and awareness to help people to stop them from being scammed, that would be fantastic.
Yes. Yes. Well, and I think that's why I'm bringing awareness to this, because I want to say to those out there, we've all been going through this deep transformation. I mean, the things that have come up the last 2.5 years for so many people are really heavy, heavy stuff. Right. I mean, you know, if you were adopted, you're finding out you were adopted for the first time at, 45 years old. I mean, crazy stuff in your life that, you just has been hidden. It's a
transformative period.
Say that again?
I said it's a transformative period, I think everyone has been going through this very long 2.5 years, a period of just transforming.
Yes. And it's something for many of us, we've never done before. So, right. And even if you've been through, I mean, I think back to the first time I was looking back when Saturn was in Scorpio, I was a freshman in high school, sophomore, junior. So, yeah, I mean, that's when we were all experiencing a very dark time, when rock and roll was getting very dark, when deeper, darker things were coming to the surface when I think back. And it's interesting because I think back to my life when Saturn moved into Sagittarius after going through a very deep, dark time in my life. I had a huge religious, faith-based experience and completely changed my life during Saturn and Sagittarius. So for those of you that are older and you want to look back and ask yourselves, what was going on? What transformations were you going through? I think we all are getting ready to go through a very, almost, from the dark to the light. We're looking forward to that. Yeah. But if you're leaving these unresolved issues of Saturn and Scorpio, and you're not willing to look that, you know what, yes, I was vulnerable, I know better, I didn't listen to the flags, I was desperate. If you're not willing to look down deep in that hole that we all have, we're all working on it, whether it's through creativity, through living a meaningful life.
Right.
If you're waiting for somebody else to come in and fill it, you're going to be open for, anything. And as we figure this out ourselves, within ourselves, I think we're more apt to then be bringing in more meaningful, true, honest relationships going into this next stage.
Yeah.
So, does that make
sense? You guys read Tanya's question she had?
Go ahead and read that. I didn't have my glasses on. Can you read that?
Do you think Saturn moving into Sagittarius would it bring an expansion of philosophical thought, ideas among other ideas among different countries and different people? Scorpio kind of digging deep and revealing secrets, and then everyone coming to a greater understanding of each other. I agree. I'm actually looking very forward to Saturn moving into Sagittarius, just because it's getting out of my first house. I'm tired,
Yeah.
worn out. I need a break. But I survived. I survived.
And it hasn't been too nice on those Leos either, so you've been getting double whammy.
Right.
Absolutely.
And then the whole transit of Mars and Libra in my 12th house at the beginning of the year.
Oh, that was long.
Very long and painful. I think, was Saturn retrograde at the beginning of the year in Scorpio?
In the spring and summer.
Yes,
Yes.
sometime. For here, anyway.
All very painful. I'm surprised I can still walk.
Bless.
Yeah, it's getting down very deep into the core of who we are. And Tanya, I think that's a great question. And I think, you know, part of these hot topics are about looking at the positive side and looking at the shadow side of what's going on, because we're seeing both.
Yeah,
and my
it
encouragement
has to be balanced.
Yes, and my encouragement for those who are watching and asking these questions or have gone through a really hard time is to bring hope and to bring encouragement. And what we do learn now is going to spread, because Sagittarius is about connecting abroad, you know, bringing foreign cultures, different relationships. I mean, like we were talking about, you know, I've developed friendships all over the country. It's never even been heard of in my life. And it's been absolutely amazing.
Amazing.
It's so fun, but I think that we also have to look at the fact, if we aren't really looking within ourselves and growing and doing what it needs to get ourselves right inside, it's also going to open up for global deception and many ways that we can't even imagine. And we're seeing the effects of this. I'm seeing women brokenhearted right now over something that, you know, I'm not taking lightly, because of the fact that we're so open to intimacy right now. But I'm also saying protect that beautiful gift.
Right.
Yeah.
Protect it.
I think we need to bear in mind that, all right, we've had the internet around for quite some time now, but it hasn't been on such a massive scale up until a decade ago. It really started to take off. Now, a decade in lifespan of mankind is just the tiniest time ever. If you consider factually that we've got over 7 billion people on the planet, and I can't remember the statistics offhand, but I did see them a few months ago, how many people are now hooked up to the internet. If you take that big percentage of people that are now hooked up onto the internet globally, and you look at the fact that we've only been using the internet to this extent for the last decade, we're still very fresh. Do you see what I mean? It's still very young. Yes. And so we are, all of us are still quite vulnerable to it. I've had to go round through my loved ones and get them off of a certain email site, because it just wasn't secure. Just wasn't secure enough. You know, all of us have been open to scams at some point. A lot of people, unfortunately, have lost an awful lot of money and had an awful lot of headache and heartbreak from being ripped off on the internet with the financial side. You know,
yes,
having passwords hacked into and what have you. So I think that's just another. It's just another part of the same problem. The problem is, I think we're very young at this. We're very new, and like I said, if we could get Saturn over the next couple of months to work its magic and get people to learn, and I know it's hard lessons and it's heartbreaking to see people suffer like that, but if we can get it into a place where we make it more known and get more people so that they understand that there is that balance, and that balance in life requires that there is the good and the bad in everything. And unfortunately, the internet is no different. You know, we've got the thing called the dark web, which is, you know, it's not called the dark web for nothing. You know, it's a pretty scary place out on the internet. I said to my son a few years back when he first got his own computer, we are inviting the whole world into our living room.
Yes.
That's a really, really scary prospect.
Yes. Well, and I think it's also, I mean, even to kind of offshoot on that topic a little bit, but even how much, you know, of even family relationships. You know, you used to see people on the holidays or on Easter, and it was special, or birthdays and Christmas, and then now, you know, we can all see each other's lives, which is exciting. It's wonderful. You know, for a lot of people that I don't see, I love being able to keep up with them. But then on the darker side, people have used that to say things, to hurt each other, to judge each other, to, you know, create. I mean, there's more families that have been blocked from each other on Facebook than there are friends. You know, and here, the things you can't say face to face, everybody's saying with, you know, by the way, and, you know, somebody, you know, with all the ways that we can undertone the comment, and then somebody's trying to read what that really means, and now you're not talking for the rest of your life over a Facebook, you know, so. And people are recreating new families. People are finding new families, new groups, new connections.
Exactly. That's where this whole internet wonderfulness comes in with mankind, because we are all linking up. And to get back to what the two of you were saying earlier on when we first started this, we are all finding each other, and it's because we're all, there's a saying in England, birds of a feather flock together. There you go. So that's the wonderful side of it, and it is allowing us. I mean, I put a post up in my group today to say that I believe the internet is kind of like a psychic link. It is linking everybody around the world potentially. I know not everyone's on the internet, and they're certainly not talking to each other yet. But that's what's happening. It's bringing the world much closer, and it's bringing us all into this amazing thing where we're talking to people from other countries. I found out today someone I speak to regularly is actually German. I had no idea. It makes no difference. It's exciting to me.
Yes.
It's a wonderful thing.
People together.
Yeah, exactly. And that also means because we're like-minded, we can really rock and move with this. Right. We can make the most amazing things happen on the planet now, because there's going to be so much more of us heading towards that. We only have to look at the amazing thing with Twitter and being able to organize, on the one hand, riots, and on the other hand, revolutions. Right. You know, there's that balance. There's that black and white of the internet and the availability of being able to pull people together. So I think tonight we're dealing with a symptom of, you know, it's a sad and sick symptom of the internet, and of opening our world up to people that we don't necessarily know, and to a side that is perhaps more vulnerable. You know, we are conditioned almost from birth as we grow up to look for Prince Charming. As women, yeah? We buy into the fairy tale, and so that instantly gives us much more, you know, sense of vulnerability right there. And I think these chaps have very cleverly cottoned onto that.
And I just want to say, you know, being that I am seeing a common thread within the charts that I've been given, that have had this experience and fallen into it, that there was strong Scorpio energy in their charts. Mars and Scorpio was a common thread amongst all three of the charts that I looked at, along with some other things. And I don't say that to put Scorpios down, but what I say that is that Scorpio is one of the energies that really, you know, thrives on privacy, can get isolated.
Yes.
Relationships are very private, so having somebody sending you messages into your living room. I'm telling you right now, because this is something that came personally to my world. I saw this person literally change and become isolated, and I remember thinking the power of this person, this kid really, but had the ability to manipulate through words. Intimate words, how he had the ability to isolate this person from well-meaning family members that could see the power of the words were the power that we're all looking for, these deep, intimate relationships.
Maybe that comes down to a self-worth issue, Chrystal.
And how, but I think...
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Kajaya, because I like your
The
Saturn and
power
Aquarius.
of the words, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, for a Scorpio ascendant, Capricorn rules the third house, and Pluto is in Capricorn. So when that's dealing with communication, and Pluto is now in Scorpio's astrological third house. So that's very interesting.
Very interesting. And Pisces is in the 5th house.
That's my 5th house.
Yeah, which creates, which is the romance and the excitement. It's retrograde right now. All 3 of these people had this go on during the summer when Mars was in Scorpio. Mm-hmm. Neptune was retrograde. So in saying this, sometimes we can all get caught up in deceptions, because there are certain things going on that can bring confusion. And I think one thing that you said, Ten, that I really stuck with me tonight is you said, birds of a feather flock together, right? That's our saying. If you're isolated out there and you're not in a healthy, growing group, I don't care what group it is. I don't care if it's an AA group. I'm talking on the internet. If you're on the internet, because the people that I talk to every day are uplifting. They're encouraging. Yeah. They're looking at real, true issues. So when I'm reading, they're speaking about honest things. I have to look at myself honestly, and I'm surrounding myself by people growing, and it fulfills that need for intimacy in me and connection, because we're talking about real, true issues. So if you do have this strong Scorpio in your chart and you've fallen for this deception or something similar to it, get out from being isolated. That's where they get you. And this is just a general subject, but I think it can happen and manifest in so many ways when you get isolated and hurting and alone.
Yeah, I think also we should just put a little word in for the chaps that have probably been ripped off out there as well. I remember in my old email account, there was constantly, I'm not going to mention the country, there was constantly emails coming in, spamming in from a particular country, introducing these young ladies, looking for chaps. Mm-hmm. So I think it's not just a lady's problem. I think it's a chap's problem as well. I think it's a problem across the board. I mean, there's so many subjects that tie in with this that are dark. The bad side. I don't even need to mention them. Yeah. And it's all along the same theme, which is deception, and it's all to do with the internet. So there's 2 very, very common threads there, which is communication for starters. Really in the real world, outside of cyberspace, just how easy is it for somebody to deceive someone on such a level? Well, that probably happens, and probably has done, for years.
Oh, absolutely. But I think, like we talked about in the beginning, so many people aren't having real connections with the real person where you can use your intuition by body language. I mean, that gets missed too, but we're not feeling people anymore. We're letting people come in psychically. Yeah,
disconnected.
Mm-hmm. And what are relationships? We'll kind of get ready to close here, but Kajaya, with your generation and the relationships that are happening, like, what do you see as pitfalls or positive things going on? Any advice?
As far as to my generation on relationships?
Yeah.
Actually, someone with the Venus and Virgo, their idea about relationships and their opinion on relationships. I don't think we really have a good understanding of what a real relationship is, to tell you the truth. Mm-hmm. We meet one person, it's, oh, I love you, and, a few moments later, it's, well, I don't love you anymore. We really don't know what love is. We really don't know how to make that deep connection. And like I said, I'm from the Saturn and Aquarius generations. It's not about, even though, like I said, Aquarius deals with large organizations and groups of people, it's also disconnected. It's also, it's a loner.
Yeah, it's a bit cold actually,
Yeah,
Aquarius.
it's cold. So when it comes to actually making deep connections, also from the Saturn and Scorpio generation, we really don't have a good understanding or real understanding of what a meaningful relationship is.
But then, Aquarius and Uranus are responsible for the relationship of mankind.
Right.
So although they have this amazing ability to sort of detach themselves and be a bit cold sometimes, that is mankind's love that we're talking about right there. So surely, even if your generation is having problems on an intimate relationship side, trying to work that through, you would find it a lot easier to embrace the brotherhood of man.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's why I enjoy so much talking to you and a lot of different friends I've met in your generation, because there is this freedom about it. We can talk, we can have a message, and then we get off, and then we come back on, and then it's not so heavy, and you offended me. My generation's all more about all these heavy, expectations of relationships, because we've come from more of that generation, And I think it's blending these two together. And, I'm bringing, like I said, these subjects up because I want people to, really be able to see clearly whatever it is you're seeing, as hard as it may be. Maybe you're looking at yourself for the first time, or maybe you realize the last 2.5 years you feel like you've just been, like a train wreck. But I want to bring hope tonight. There are tools, there are answers, there is encouragement, there is a path we're going on that's going to bring us all to a place where we're experiencing, really good relationships. It's possible.
Yeah.
But like with anything, we have to preserve it. We have to protect it. We have to use our intuition. We have to set boundaries. And, I don't want to see anybody left behind in this Saturn and Scorpio feeling totally demolished. We've got to rise like the phoenix now. We've got 2 months to rise.
Yay.
I'm hoping people can rise from the ashes. Like I said, it's been Saturn and Scorpio, it brings things to the surface. And I see it as a great opportunity for people to grow and to look at themselves, really, to face their own problems, to face the things that they've been hiding. This was a great period, at least for me, because it was transiting my ascendant. It was a period of growth and discovery. And I think that could have been for everyone.
Yes.
Totally. Yeah.
Well, thank you, you guys. This was really awesome, and I hope you guys out there, just give you guys things to think about and to look at real-life issues. I'm going to put a couple of documentaries, again, like I said, in the descriptions underneath, because I want you guys to see this stuff is out there. If, you connect to any, you have any questions, we're here, and, we just want to bring you some different perspectives and help you realize you're not alone. And we're all going through this transformation, and we all want to be together on the other side of this. So that's what I'm here for. Any final thoughts, you guys?
Any final thoughts, Tanya? She's typing over here.
She's typing. Yes. Oh, yes. We're going to get Tanya fixed up somehow. This is the 3rd time we've tried to do this, and her audio isn't working. So any of you guys who know about audio and Google, let us know, because we don't know why it's happening.
Can I ask a question? Tanya, have you checked your audio on Skype so that you know that it's working on that?
That's a good point. I've had that happen with if your Skype is open and you try to do the Google Hangout, sometimes your video won't come through.
Yeah.
All right. Well, those are some things we can keep trying, but these are some of the things I've got coming up, you guys. I also am going to be doing some astrology classes, so if you have very specific questions about your chart, you can take a look at my website, cowgirlastrologer.com, and check out the different options. And if you have a topic that you would like to be talked about, leave a question below and leave that topic, and I might be able to get my astrology friends to come back up on and share their insights. Thank you, you guys. You were awesome.
Thank you for having me. It was nice meeting everyone.
Yeah, it's lovely to meet you too.
Okay, well, have a great evening, you guys, and we'll talk again soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Good night. Take care. God bless.
God bless.